temperature is about 80.5 degrees in the summer on average. By the end of this century, if we do not mitigate our path, if we do not make change, summers in Stillwater will be similar to northern Texas. Okay, so it's something to be thinking about. How can we, first of all, prepare for those changes? Even if we do mitigate our contributions, we need to prepare for those changes. And secondly, and very importantly, we need to mitigate our emissions so that we don't make it all the way down to Texas. I love Texas, it's great, but we love Minnesota, let's keep Minnesota. Not only that, the IPCC, which is the UN panel that guides climate change science and policy information, has indicated that cities are our #1 lever, most powerful lever to make changes related to climate change. Their studies indicate that cities acting alone, just simply doing what cities can do, can reduce our emissions 40% of what is needed. So that's without federal support, county support, or state support. So cities play a very crucial part in our ability to address this issue. Not only that, according to studies by the World Resource Institute, cities who act on climate can leverage as much as $24 trillion in benefits by 2050, while at the same time reducing their emissions by 90%. So there's great opportunities for cities to act on climate. It's a revenue generator, it's a job generator, it saves us money today, as well as avoiding costs into the future. I wanted to address a little bit about community support for climate action. We live in an interesting time right now where community support is very likely underestimated significantly. There's a great study, if you want to look it up here, it's quoted at the bottom, great study that was just issued in August. In that study, they've indicated that we are living under what is known as a false social reality. That comes about because roughly 66 to 80% of the citizens support climate action. They want to see our communities and our states work on climate action. However, those same folks have a perception that they are in the minority. Only about 40% of them think that others hold the same views. In the state of Minnesota, on average, the misperception is about 25%. So that means that if you ask the average person on the street how many, if they are concerned about climate action, if they say yes, if you ask them how many you think also support that, their guesstimate is probably going to be about 25% lower than reality. Okay, and part of it is because this is a changing issue. 10 years ago, nobody was thinking about this. Today, everybody is thinking about it. And I will say that we do surveys with all the communities that we work with. I would suggest that that number tends to be low. In our surveys, we tend to find about 80 to 90% of the people in a community support climate action. Another piece of good news is that there's an opportunity for all of us to actually make a difference and to do something about this. Particularly, awesome organizations like Sustainable Stillwater have an amazing role to play. According to the United Nations, local volunteer interventions like Sustainable Stillwater drive outcomes, and they're key to things like realizing climate justice and human rights. They're key to knowledge and data gathering, and very importantly, they're key to participatory policy development in such a way that helps us to drive use of scientific evidence as well as citizen perspectives in policymaking. So that means that the role that Sustainable Stillwaters and other volunteers have is enormous in helping to drive change. I've got a couple sort of examples of success that I want to share with you from our work and others that we know about. In the village of Northbrook, Illinois, which we've been working with for the last couple of years, a volunteer group, actually just like Sustainable Stillwater, and businesses in the community supported the plan development and the implementation of the plan. The community, in just 2 years so far, has reduced their emissions 30%, 6% reduction in single occupancy vehicle use, increase in electric vehicle registrations, and a reduction in building energy use. Another client of ours, the city of Dubuque, A volunteer group, actually just like Sustainable Stillwater, actually drove the development of their initial climate action plan, which happened in 2010. That same group also drove the implementation of it. Then in 2020, they supported the city in creating a revised, updated plan that then was taken over by the city, which is good, we want that. And through their work, the city has seen a 27% reduction in community-wide emissions. They've established a couple of programs, including a solar assistance program for low-income folks, and a training and mentorship program for youth, helping to implement climate action activities. A third community of ours, one that we're actually currently working with right now, is the town of Peterborough, New Hampshire. A volunteer group of activists in the community who have been concerned about these issues have organized themselves, they just received their 501c3, and through their works, they have driven the municipal planning and implementation process. So far, they have succeeded in passing a warrant article which commits the community to reaching carbon neutrality by 2040. Passed. So this was voted on community-wide and it passed. They also established a community power entity that's going to help drive renewable electricity throughout the community-wide by 2030. They have driven the funding and the process for the renewable energy plan that we are in the process of wrapping up in the next month or so. And they will be transitioning into an official town commission, all through sort of volunteer energy, just like Sustainable Stillwater. My last example isn't so much a powerful example related to volunteerism, although it does exist, but it's our poster child for how to take a plan and use it for funding. And that's the city of Burnsville. They're kind of our poster child for this. They've done an amazing job. Literally, as soon as the plan was done, within a month, they were using their plan to pursue grant applications, and they received $125,000 to implement portions of the plan that they really wanted to implement, but they had no idea how they were going to implement it. So just simply having the plan helped them to leverage funding from philanthropic sources to get work done in their community. So that brings me to my last point that I wanted to share with you, and that is a little word on funding. So communities that have plans, like Burnsville, really can position themselves to better their community. A study by the U.S. Conference of Mayors found that successful grant recipients had a few things in common. Number one, they all had plans. Just having a plan put them towards the top of the list. And because they had a plan, they could clearly illustrate that they knew the benefits of whatever actions they were asking for money for. They could also clearly illustrate that they understood the needs well, because they had a plan. And very powerfully and very importantly, they could also illustrate that they had the capacity to take the funds that they were asking for and do something with it. Because in almost all of those instances, they had strong relationships between the city and volunteer groups like Sustainable Stillwater to illustrate that they had the capacity to do things, to get things done. That it wasn't just going to be the city all by themselves, that they had relationships that could form the basis. And so having a plan and creating those relationships can help position us for funding for our communities. And that is no small thing in our current environment. We have money that's about to be unleashed totaling about $2 trillion. If you think about $2 trillion, that's an amazing amount, both in terms of literal funding that's coming from the federal government as well as private investment that's going to be leveraged by this. In fact, I've seen recent reports that $2 trillion is probably smaller than what is likely to come out. And of it, literally hundreds of billions of dollars that have been earmarked to support municipal and county work around climate action, around both implementing actions from plans as well as implementing infrastructure requirements for the electric transition, adaptation issues, you name it. So just simply organizing ourselves and using the wonderful power that we've got through organizations like Sustainable Stillwater to help drive that can make a huge difference in our communities. So with that, I'll just be quiet, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ted, for what you are doing. My goodness, that was inspiring, right? That again affirmed your decision to join us tonight. That was so powerful, and I'm going to have to paraphrase because I couldn't write down verbatim, but never underestimate the power of a small group of people to change the world, right, Margaret Mead? That is a profound perspective, and again, proof and affirmation for why you are here tonight and what we can collectively do as a member of this important organization. So you have learned a lot about what Sustainable Stillwater is doing, but at the same time, we do want to look specifically, take a look, a snapshot look, if you will, at what this organization is doing in terms of those projects. And as a visual reporter, I'm a big believer in the power of pictures, so I'm just going to step back for a moment and allow you to see some of the projects that are already underway as a result of this organization.